Hi, welcome back. I'm Maxine. And this is a bit of a spontaneous video that I'm just following my intuition to make it. So we'll see how it goes. As you can see, I've got some new sound technology, which is exciting. I was recently asked to host a podcast series by some people that I do freelance work with, the Association for Coaching. In fact, actually, the idea for the series was mine, and because I was so passionate about it, they said, "Well, you better host it." So I'm having this fantastic experience of experiment of my fear versus my desire, and because actually my desire is great in this respect, to do this particular thing, I just my fear's coming up, but I'm just going. There's other things more important than my fear, which is an incredible feeling, and is related to what I'm going to talk about anyway. So I'll talk a bit more about that particular balance between fear and desire as I go on. But I also wanted to talk about awe and wonder. As you know, many of us have been quite suppressed and shut down emotionally, and I think it's really important that we find ways to access and soften our hearts. And awe and wonder is one of those things. And as I'm getting to know bits of my real self and express that, I'm realising that's a quality that I've always had. That even in my darkest moments, when I've been on the verge of just wanting to die or hurt myself, I'd walk along a pavement and notice a daisy growing in a crack, and just be able to stand there admiring it and the wonder of life. So in many ways, that kind of thing has probably kept me going, because it's like the light balances out the dark. That moment of awe and wonder brings in that moment of light. And I'm sure my guides have probably used that to help me along the road many times. So I think it's a really, really beautiful quality, and I think it's one that contains gratitude as well. So I want to encourage you to develop it, just develop it. Watch children. I mean, they're doing it constantly, particularly when they're very young. And I think I was really lucky. Out of all the craziness of my childhood, one of the blessings was I was brought up in the Suffolk countryside until I was 12. And we were pretty much allowed to just roam it free. We were out all day and just doing whatever, out in the fields, out in the hay, in the woods. We were even watching insects in the garden. We were always watching life happening day to day. And that probably kept me going as a child, and I think it still does. But I think it also gives that feeling of connectedness. But on a deeper level as well, it connects you with this incredible creation that is around us and in us. And I think for me as well, it's always connected me with this idea there is something bigger and greater than myself or what the world is even telling me going on. So at different periods of my life, I might have called that God, and other times when I've not been open to God, or I've called it something else. But there's definitely been that feeling of life that happens in awe and wonder. Whether you're watching a sunset, you're hearing the trickle of a stream in the woods, or you're even, like I said, just seeing a flower popping through a crack in a pavement. And I can remember once having I guess a kind of metaphysical experience of walking down this road and feeling this connection with everything around me. And as I did, they started showing me visions of, like, I used to look at, like, contrast the buildings, that man-made buildings that we make sometimes, that are quite ugly and very concrete based. And as I walked down this sort of high street, what happened was, in my vision, was I suddenly saw the buildings like covered in flowers, like everyone had flower pots, all the windows and the flowers were hanging really low, and just there was just colour everywhere. And it just, I don't know, I think it just showed me how two things, that the signs of those buildings were the signs maybe of where we're at now. I wouldn't have maybe used the term soul development in those days, but our soul condition of where we're at now with our creativity and the way we build. And it's not it's not in line with love all the time. It's practical, but it's not always pretty. But also what I saw was this potential that actually beauty, natural beauty, will always overtakes that kind of greyness that we sometimes create in this world. And like I said, I'm always amazed at what comes through a crack in a pavement, what can still grow. And we see that everywhere. And it's just incredible, which again connects in with more truth, I think, that no matter how dark we feel life gets, no matter how crazy the world seems, like right now, it just is, it's getting worse, it feels all the time. No matter how that seems to be all it's about, it never is, because there is always a blue sky behind the clouds. Nature is always continuing and growing, and the birds are still flying. There's always this sign that life continues. I don't know if any of you have ever watched any programs about Chernobyl, when the nuclear accident happened, but the first thing that came back to life there, despite what happened there, was nature. And I believe now it's because it's just been left untouched. It's been quite incredible. I think scientists have been really shocked by how nature was able to thrive and start to thrive even in that environment. And I'm sure it went through cycles where certain plants would have grown, which would have helped the soil, which then would have allowed for other plants and insects and everything to come. So, it still continued to have an ecosystem. And so that's also what I see it in that sense of awe and wonder. And once you start letting yourself really feel it, I mean, for me at the moment, an image will just come up through something I'm looking, Instagram or somewhere, and I'm just feel like I'm getting really tearful about it all the time. Anyone watching me is going to think I'm a bit bonkers, but I'm letting it happen, and it's just beautiful. I just feel there's this sort of contrast maybe of where sometimes I feel I'm at with where I can be, but there's always this constant reminder from God that that God has to be a God of love to have created this beauty for us. And this is a beauty that we've damaged at the moment. This is our damaged version of it. So what it's going to be like when it's not damaged, or what it was like originally, I can't imagine. It just must have been awesome. So awe and wonder is great for opening your heart, for connecting you with some truths about the world, about the universe, and about God, if you're open to God. So I really encourage you to do that. It doesn't have to be anything. You could live in a high-rise building and still find things to have awe and wonder about. If you can look out at the sky and watch the patterns in the clouds, you can have awe and wonder. Or if you can, I don't know, do something with your hands, you can choose, even sometimes the way you may put clothes together in colours, you can have awe and wonder about that. Once you start having awe and wonder, you start to see little miracles throughout the day that are happening. I mean, you should have seen me when I got this microphone and the headphones that came with it and other bits of equipment. I felt like a kid in a sweet shop, because first of all, I finally created the money to be able to buy it, and two, it just felt like a sign that I was, I'm following my desires, and it felt awesome. And I felt excited, and I let myself feel like a little kid. And I think that is becoming apparent. That's definitely part of my real self as well, is that ability to have awe and wonder and delight in the little things. Whether it's a piece of roasted beetroot or or whatever, or like these little gifts that have been given to me from my son sometimes, and these, this is the sort of thing we do. We get colour, we get materials, and we make something really pretty from them, and that's that's us as well. We are kind of we're in the image of God, in that God is the king of creation, if you know what I mean. God is like the ultimate creator, the ultimate artist, the ultimate scientist, But we all have that in us. So that's the other part of awe and wonder I wanted to mention, is that what I'm finding is helping me a lot is I've had some really deep and still have some deep lack of worth issues like most of us do. And over the years, I've made that worse because I've bashed myself and I've believed the stories and the things that were told me as a child. I've believed that version of myself. And obviously we've all inherited that injury about low worth, and we've been disconnected from our real parent, God. So we've all have that injury, and mine's been very bad, and I've constantly walked through life feeling less than people. And that's led to me sometimes even going the other way and being angry and arrogant with people to cover up that huge insecurity that sometimes lies underneath. And spent many years self-punishing and judging and being really pretty mean and horrible to myself. After I went to Australia to spend time on the volunteer selection programme, and spend time with Jesus and Mary and Eloise and Tristan and Catherine, who are following the way really well, obviously, walking their walk. After I spent time with people that were really loving, and all of them kept encouraging me to be me. They wanted the real me. And at the time I was really baffled by who the real me was. I think I was so used to adapting myself and to fit in with other people, to people please, or in emotion in me to keep safe, to not get judgment, not to be abandoned, rejected, all that stuff. So, but what it did do is it drove me when I came home to start thinking about, well, who is the real me? And I started looking at pictures of myself as a little girl. I started trying to remember the things I used to maybe delight in. And then I also started to remember things that I was really sad that I wanted to do and delight in that my parents had no interest in nurturing within me. And in fact, didn't really have any interest in any of my passions and desires because they hadn't followed their own. So I started to remember, and I started to see lots of dots joining through my life of I'd kept going back to this, like nature has always been a consistent thing with me. Creativity, art, even though I've had many blocks and many years without doing art, that kept coming back to me. Writing, these things kept coming back to me. And I haven't discovered them all. But what I started to appreciate as well is that maybe I might have unworthy healings to feel, but maybe I started to tune in to the fact that maybe God does have awe and wonder towards me, which is really such an incredible thing, and one I can't fully absorb, that God has awe and wonder towards us, his children, that as Jesus said in the prayer, we are the greatest of her creations. And so God must, if he's made us the greatest of his creations, it would make sense that he not only loves us, but that he delights in us, that he looks at us and goes, wow, look what I did, look at you with your unique personality. And so what I'm learning is that rather than bashing myself, there's a big difference between owning the emotions you have in you to heal, that have created some sin and darkness in you. Sort of there's a difference between owning those emotions and trying to developing a desire to feel the cause of those emotions, to release them. There's a big difference between that and that being humble, that's being really humble, to bashing yourself, which is actually preventing you from being humble, because by bashing yourself you're avoiding, in a way, the people that bashed you in the first place, the feelings you have of the people that suppressed you and hurt you in the first place. So bashing yourself is an avoidance. So it's not humility at all. But also God's truth has to come in play to help, for me anyway, to help me to start to develop a bit of humility by actually going, well, maybe there is some truth that I am awesome in God's eyes. And maybe there is this unique personality in myself and my soulmate that needs to express itself, is allowed to express itself, and may be something wonderful. I emotionally need, I'm not, that's not sunk in my heart, but just moving from that constant self-judgment into the possibility and the potential of who I am and who I could be is really helping me. It's what's making me do these videos. And what it's doing as well, because I'm tuning into the potential and possibility that I have, my real self is awesome from God's perspective, it's feeding desires and passions. I'm wanting to express that real part of myself more. Hence, I've been experimenting with different desires. Over the last 2 years, I've dropped quite a number of things I thought that were me, and they've turned out not to be, or I'm not ready for them yet. I've got some injured emotions that are getting in the way of that desire. But my desires are growing, and I'm wanting to express that creative part of me again. I'm wanting to do my art again. I'm still struggling with it, but there is a growing desire. I want to express my creativity. And in that process, my work has changed drastically. And I'm still on a journey with that. So I've spent most of my life working with people, from nursing to midwifery into education, social care. I have been doing people work all that time, and it's not that isn't part of a pure desire somewhere, but in the process I completely have ignored myself and what I really want. I thought that like being a writer was not responsible. This is one of my big injuries, is creativity is not a responsible thing. What purpose does it serve? How does it help people? And all these various like saboteur type of false beliefs we have in ourselves, and now I suddenly, out of the blue, I'm working as a podcast coordinator, doing some freelance work and some other freelance work, and I'm finding that even those jobs, rapidly, the parts of them that aren't me, I'm wanting to drop. So it's just really an amazing process. So all this time, when Jesus and Mary have been saying to us, follow your passions and desires. Our guides are always nudging us in that direction. Follow your passions and desires. It's not just about, it's not just that, like, following your passions and desires. What I'm learning is it brings up emotions. It triggers you all the time. So doing these videos is nerve-wracking for me. There's a million different things that come up in the moment. I feel very exposed and things like that. But my desire to share truth and to share parts of my journey to help you, and also because I think God's truth is awesome. I don't think that all the time, I don't think, but generally, like, it never goes away. The gift, the idea of how this is changing my life, I can't leave aside, and I want to share some of it with you. So there's this whole process, and so it's really important to follow our passion and desires, because I'm seeing now that actually it's developing humility if we do it with humility, and it develops our humility even more. But we also get to face some truth. So I've got to face some truth about some of the addictions I've had with the type of work I've done, and work through them, and then make the decision just to pull right away for a while from some of that, to see what happens and what develops and how I feel, and some of the emotions I've had. In the end, the kind of just exhaustion and anger I felt about always having to serve other people sometimes, or my last job working with young people, I realised that I was busy trying to help them with their trauma and being a hypocrite, that actually I needed to heal my own trauma to be more effective to working with them again. So I've stepped right back at the moment, and I don't know the whole answer, and I don't need to know the whole answer. And I think that's been a big shift for me, is not needing to know the final answer, but just to trust the process and just keep taking the steps and experimenting. So, gosh, I've experimented, right from all through COVID. I listened to lots of different webinars. I thought coaching was going to be my thing for a while. No, not really. I use the skills, but it wasn't going to be like the full-time job. I tried to make it that for a little time, but it didn't feel right. or maybe it's the wrong time, and various different things like that. I've just done lots of different experiments, and in that space, I've learned to start to accept that there are mistakes. It's okay to let things go. It's okay to just refine what you're doing. But and it's just that constant needing to self-reflect and be humble to what's coming up, and then also when the resistance comes, notice it as well, of course. So what I'm saying is, awe and wonder will soften your heart. It brings in gratitude, which again opens your heart. It connects you with God. It connects you with truth. And your passions and desires that you want to follow, loving passion and desires I'm talking about, even if they don't start off being 100% loving, it's fine. You just do it, and then you just learn, as I'm learning. The podcast series idea that I came up with, which was about finding people who use creativity along with coaching. And I've met some awesome women through it, like people doing amazing stuff. And every one of these women is using something that connects to things that I love in my heart. So one woman uses dance and movement with coaching, and I am a dancer in my soul. Absolutely love it. One is using art. One is using writing, therapeutic writing, which is something I'm very interested in. And so art, and others using collage, which is another thing I like to play around with. I mean, honestly, the law of attraction has gone boom, boom, boom. And I felt like God has gone, there you are. There's all some bits of you that you haven't expressed. And of course, that's brought up some grief, but it's also brought up of, wow, okay, so, and I can be me. I'm allowed to be me. This is the awesome part of me that needs to be expressed. So I guess this is such a wonderful topic for me to talk about at the moment. So I apologise if I'm not being as clear as I could be. But I just feel really excited by it. And my guides, I channeled my guides the other day because one of my desires has been mediumship. So I'm starting a UK mediumship group, which is again terrifying and exciting. But my desire, the pendulum is swinging. My desire is greater than my fear. So what I'm learning is that, wow, that really works. Because Jesus has always said that, our fear, when our fear's that high, our desire's that low. And what we've got to do is swing it the other way, of course. And that's what it feels like is happening for me on certain issues, is that my desire is greater than my fear. I'm choosing as well. I'm making a choice to not let the fear stop me. That's really important. And just, feel the fear as it comes up, but not let the fear stop me. And it's opening me up, and it's so exciting. So please do it yourselves. Let your desire overtake your fear. And so if I can start doing that as well, in certain parts of my life, then I can start pushing that. I can see now that it's building faith in me that, okay, when I don't let fear rule, this is what happens. And the feedback that comes is really beautiful. And when I channeled my guides the other day, it was very emotional, because I could feel their excitement and joy at this process that I'm going on. I think I can feel them now, that their joy in seeing me do this. And that's very emotional to feel, because I've struggled to feel their love, but I could really feel their excitement and joy for me, and so that was really lovely. And then via a friend, I got a lovely message from my grandmother about me facing my fears at the moment. So just been really encouraging. So this is not taking away from all the addictions and anger and sin I need to heal, and the things I need to repent, and all the forgiveness I need to do. It's not taking away from any of that. That's still in my soul at the moment. But maybe what I'm starting to get is a sense of the core of me is not all that muck. And for many years I have just seen the muck and been very hard on myself, that I was some kind of depraved and dark soul, and we're not. And in fact, there's a lovely mediumship session. I think it's 2009, the mediumship session, teaching about mediumship. I think it's session 2. Jesus actually talks about this in the first part, about what God really thinks about us, and that we're okay to think good things about us. And I don't know about you, but when that happens to me, I still have a guilt thing about that. But I just keep reminding myself that God's truth is that God thinks I'm awesome, because God created me. And that also might mean that my soulmate is awesome too, which brings up all sorts of stuff about soulmates. So that's what I just wanted to say, was encourage you to tune in to awe and wonder, look around you, see what's beautiful. Let it remind you that God's there and that God loves you. Let it remind you there is more to life than what this world, what we're creating at the moment. And let it remind you of your possibilities and potential of who you are and who you can be in the future, if you start to really become humble to the truth of what you need to heal, but also to the truth of this unique personality with a unique combination of talents and skills that are made in you to offer to yourself and to others around you. So that was it. So yeah, I'll let you ponder on all those things. Take care. Bye.